Let us explore Naropa's second yoga, that of empty body. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. Tonight we're going to play with the 18th lesson. This is gonna be some new stuff. Don't be shy when you have questions. Just type them into the chat window. If you're terribly extroverted, you can always rummage around in the description area below the live stream, find the link to the Instagram live stream, and join the live stream, and then smash the request button so that it can function as a type of FaceTime. Now, because it's just on my side, I might not notice it. And if I don't respond to you within about 5 seconds, the option will go away. So if that's the case, leave the live stream and return it. Leave the live stream and return it. Persistence pays off. But that's completely optional. Typing your questions is completely legit. Before we dig into tonight's class, if you have any questions or wish to introduce yourself, now would be an excellent time. If you find any value in these live streams or podcasts or blogs or class materials, numerous and free to download, then please consider supporting the Buddha Joy Meditation School by using one of the links in the description area below the live stream. If you cannot do that at this time, then you can support this channel simply by clicking subscribe, clicking the bell, the notification bell icon, clicking the thumbs up icon, and writing a comment. These things really help with the algorithm. As we gaze upon this page of the practice text, it becomes very obvious that this is a Word document. However, when you download texts from the download page, whose link can be found in the description area below the video, they will be in PDFs formatted specifically to be read upon your smartphone, held horizontally. Now, to really get the most out of these lengthy PDFs, download the free Kindle app. It will make both navigation and bookmarking a breeze. The recommended reading for tonight's class are the 7th through 12th passages of Tantra's Treasure of Raktatari, which of course is available for free download. This is our second night exploring the 6 yogas of Naropa, the cornerstone of the Mahamudra sect of Buddhism, or I should say subsect. For many, we consider it a subsect of Mahayana, but let's not get lost in meaningless trivialities. Naropa was the student of Tilopa and the teacher of Marpa, who became the teacher of Milarepa. Arguably Tibet's most famous yogi. So the second yoga of Naropa is empty body. There has been much confusion over the centuries. Why? Why is that? Humans are wired to communicate figuratively. And some humans confuse figurative communication for literal communication. Allow me to illustrate. Let's start with a literal statement. John is tenacious. Now let's turn that into a simile. John is as tenacious as a terrier with a bone. Now a metaphor. John is a terrier with a bone. Now, if someone was to look at that literally, that would really alter their perception of John. So, most fundamentalists are wired to confuse literal and figurative statements. Fundamentalism is a manifestation of brainstem activity. It's a manifestation of fear and aggression and controlling tendencies and rigidity. And these things divorce us from the truth, subtle and ever present. So my intention is not to present to you these teachings from a fundamentalist point of view, but from a liberal, matriarchal point of view. We read that in this context, Tantra is simply sutra plus mantra plus metaphor. And yes, tonight I'm introducing you to the 6-syllable mantra of enlightened activity that is associated with the female archetype, Red Tara. We're going to begin with, so basically, our contemplations tonight are going to focus on love and then letting go. Now, in the context of the Buddha's contemplation teachings, love here does not refer to our emotion, but rather our intention. Our intention that others benefit. Now, the worst possible reason to practice love is because the Buddha tells us to, or because your teacher tells you to. The best reason is because we are such highly developed mammals that we are under the sway of our midbrain, replete with anterior gyrate and a firmament of mirror neurons, that we can't help but be empathetic and cooperative, and love is as natural as breathing. That would be lovely. But most of us are raised in cultures and countries that punish empathy and reward cruelty. If not overtly, then at least subtly. Telling us that we need to live in it, telling us that we need to be competitive, we need to be ruthless. That's what makes us great. Although the great luminaries throughout the ages would disagree. I think you'll find that the Buddha's path of love training is remarkably easy. At the top of the page, we read the heading, Mind's Love. And that simply means love. We're wishing others well in terms of their minds. On the left-hand side of the page, we see what I like to call contemplative notation, which is very much like musical notation. And in a few minutes, we'll get to the stuff over here, which is tabulatory notation, or in other words, tells us how not to lose count. The Buddha, before the Buddha was the Buddha, before he was even the monk Gautama, He was the Prince Siddhartha, raised in privilege and debauchery. He left the palace to become Gautama the monk. He studied with two prominent teachers who focused primarily on concentration. And although they felt he accomplished their systems, he felt dissatisfied with the results. So he continued to practice, sometimes with ascetics, sometimes alone in the forest, for approximately 5 years, until he basically concluded that asceticism was also a trap, just as debauchery is. And he chose to refrain from asceticism and find the middle way. It was then that he stopped practicing concentration and began practicing mindfulness, which is the opposite. Concentration is a compression of our experience, active and controlling and self-protective. Mindfulness is the opposite. It's vulnerable and spontaneous and passive and non-analytical. So the Buddha was not into focusing on breath or controlling breath, but he was happy to notice the breath. In fact, as he progressed upon the path of mindfulness meditation, the doors of his senses were opened so wide that he was inundated with sensory information, with information about sensations and flavors and scents and sights and sounds, as well as emotions and intentions and thoughts and memories and fantasies. So he found it useful to organize reality in terms of the 4 bases of mindfulness, which, from the perspective of tantric terminology, would be mind and interpersonal communication and body and circumstance. We're going to start by wishing people, so we're going to wish people well in harmony with the 4 bases of mindfulness, beginning with folks' minds, beginning by wishing wisdom for each individual. Now, because people are so prone to grasping, instead of referring to people as beings or men or women, Buddha refers to minds or communication or bodies or circumstance, which might seem ungainly and perhaps a bit affected, but it really helps us to stop grasping quite so ferociously. So we're not praying. When we silently and mentally recite wise for each mind, in addition to practicing bad grammar, we are not praying, we are not believing, we are not self-hypnotizing, we are not manifesting, we are not practicing affirmation, we're not practicing ritual, we're not practicing visualization. We're merely silently and mentally reciting these 4 syllables, wise for each mind. And by doing that, we are guiding our intention, not our emotions. Anyone who tries to control what they feel will wind up in a world of hurt. But by playing with words, skillfully chosen, we can guide our intention. On the out breath, we're going to whisper a mantra. Now, before we learn to whisper the mantra, I'm going to teach you to intone it. And before I teach you to intone the mantra, I'm going to teach you to pronounce the individual syllables. If this is an affront to your intellect, I apologize. But I would rather commit the error of insulting you than the error of robbing you of an opportunity for the highest degree of learning. So, yes, one could use a mala or a rosary or a set of beads on a string to count. But such things can get lost or stolen or broken, or in the age of fascism, confiscated. I'm very grateful that many years ago an aging Bengali gentleman taught me crease counting, which I shall now share with you. Just like at the gym we use sets and repetitions, we do the same in this system. We will count sets upon our left hand and repetitions upon our right. As we gaze at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, 1 set of 4 breaths. So, we're going to touch the tip of our left thumb to our left little finger's lower set of creases. For, as you've already noticed as an adult, each finger, in addition to a tip, has an upper set of creases, a middle set of creases, and a lower set of creases. There you go. Let's rest each hand upon its thigh, palms up facing the ceiling. Head over our shoulders, shoulders over our tush, feet flat upon the floor, assuming you are sitting in a chair. Right now, we are just going to recite 1 syllable for 1 breath. Let's count that breath on the tip of our right our right little finger. That syllable is Om. And it rhymes with home. Honey, I'm home. So on the in-breath, we're going to silently and mentally recite wise for each mind. On the out-breath, we're going to intone the syllable Om. Now, when we do so, we don't have to be operatic. We don't have to be tuned into a certain tone. What's most important is that we relax as best we can. Wise for each mind, Om. Om. Let's repeat this on our... Now let's touch the tip of our right thumb to the tip of our right ring finger. We're going to work with the syllable ta, which is short for tata, which sounds like it's the first syllable of the greeting, tata. Wise for each mind. Ta. In this system of transliteration from one alphabet into another, the consonants are very much like English and the vowels are very much like Espanol. So R-E would sound like ray, like a ray of sunlight, or a ray gun, or a death ray. So let's touch the tip of our right thumb to the tip of our right middle finger. And we're going to intone the syllable rate. Please do this together along with me. Ray. This brings us to our right index finger, where we play now with the syllable tom. Tom. Well, we've done our 4 breaths, so we're going to switch to our next exercise. We're going to advance the tip of our left thumb up our left little finger to its middle set of creases. Love for all speech. What do we mean by this? What we mean is interpersonal relationships are typified by communication, both verbal and nonverbal. In Tantra, we refer to this simply as speech. So love for all speech means we wish that the interpersonal relationships of every living being be loving. Now this is a good time to explore the idea of every living being. For when I use that phrase, what I mean is every living being who walks or crawls or swims or flies upon this planet. If you've done any reading, you know about the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. The first two folds of the Eightfold Path are contemplation. The next three folds are compassion. And the final three folds are meditation. The second fold is right aspiration, or wishing love. Love that wishes others well. That's lovely. That's right out of the Buddha's handbook. But the third and the fourth and the fifth facets of the Buddha's path to enlightenment are about translating our love into our behavior, communicating lovingly and behaving lovingly, and performing commerce lovingly, in a non-predatory manner, at the very least. So our love, if it is to truly evolve us, must not be limited to our intentions. It must translate into our behaviors. Humanity is on the precipice of its own destruction. We face destruction either in the form of nuclear winter or climate change. If humanity is going to pull back from the precipice of its own needless destruction, we must cease to identify with the fear and competition of our brainstem and identify with the empathy and cooperation of our midbrains. We must train and love successfully. And to do that, we must behave lovingly. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that most of us are not Jeff Bezos. Most of us do not have the money to house and clothe and feed and employ and educate every human being. But there is something we can do that can directly benefit thousands of living beings, which is pretty cool. And that simple thing is twofold. A, stop exploiting and murdering other beings to eat their bodies or that which issues from their bodies, such as eggs or milk, or that which comprises their bodies, such as, skin or fur or hair, or exploiting them for their talents and the like. Well, that's pretty easy to do. Most of us have never killed an animal. So the second thing we can do is to cease to pay others to do those things for us. In other words, we can choose to exclusively consume, a whole food vegan diet. That is the one diet that the World Health Organization says is optimized for every human being in every stage of development, and has been proven to reverse the 15 leading causes of medical death in the United States, with heart disease topping the list. So not only is it safe to go be vegan, it's beneficial. It's good for the planet, it's good for the animals, and it's good for your loved ones who will not have to mourn for you prematurely. So, now that your nightly vegan flogging has concluded, come, let us continue with our contemplative training. Let us touch the tip of our right thumb to the tip of our right little finger. We are now going to work with the syllable so. If you're geeky and you remember Star Trek The Next Generation, like Captain Picard saying, make it so. Love for all speech, so. So. Remember to relax into the intonation. We're now going to work with the sixth and final syllable, ha. That voice you make, that sound you make when I tell a funny joke. Please touch the tip of your right thumb to the tip of your right ring finger. Congratulations, you have reviewed each syllable of the 6-syllable mantra of Outlined Action individually, We will now begin linking them together like the cars on a choo-choo train. We will start with just the syllable Om. As we touch the tip of our right thumb to the tip of our right ring finger. Om. We now shall work with 2 syllables as we touch the tip of our right middle finger. Om Da. And now, as you've probably guessed, we're going to work with 3 syllables as we touch the tip of our right index finger. Om Ta Re. Well, we've completed our 4 breaths of Love for All speech. We now advance our left thumb up our left little finger up to the higher set of creases, just like that, as we prepare to work with contemplation that wishes health for each form. Form is just a monosyllabic synonym for body, and this is remarkably easy to wish for during the time of pandemic. So, we're going to play with 4 syllables right now. As we touch the tip of our right thumb to the tip of our right little finger. Health for each form. Om Da Re Tam. Remember to relax as you exhale. Super important. We're now going to expand it to not 4 but 5 syllables. Please touch the tip of your right thumb to the tip of your right ring finger. Om Da Re Tam So Ha. And now, at last, we can play with all 6 syllables, assuming I could find my cursor. Where is that bad boy? Okay. Let us touch the tip of our right. Now, let me think here. Okay, let's work with our right middle finger. Om Da Re Tam So Ha. And we will now touch the tip of our right thumb to the tip of our right index finger, and this time, at long last, instead of intoning, we're just going to whisper it. We can whisper it so softly that only our shirt collar could hear us. Let's do this for 1 breath. Well, we've practiced health for each form for 4 breaths. So now we're going to return our attention to our left hand and advance our left thumb up to the tip of our left little finger. And this time we are turning our attention to all beings circumstance. And as you've probably intuited by now, in contemplation we try to use an economy of syllables. So instead of using the 3-syllable word circumstance, we shrink it down to the 1-syllable word boon. I'm sorry. Circumstance is shrinked down to the 1-syllable word lot, and good fortune is shrunk down to the 1-syllable word boon. So, boon for each lot means good fortune for each circumstance. Let us touch the tip of our right thumb to the higher set of creases upon our right little finger. Now that's a change, because this time we're going to recite Om Ta Re Tam So Ha. We're going to whisper that twice in 1 breath. Let's play with that right now. Om Ta Re Tam So Ha. Om Excellent. Now, let's touch the tip of our right thumb to the middle set of creases of our right ring finger. And this time we're going to recite the 6-syllable mantra 3 times. Om Tate Dam Soha, Om Tate Dam Soha, Om Tate Dam Soha. We are now going to touch the tip of our right thumb to the first set of creases, or the lower set of creases of our right middle finger. For now, we're going to recite or whisper the 6-syllable mantra 4 times per breath, which is going to be the standard of practice for the remainder of this course. We continue now on our right index finger. Om Tate Dam Soha, Om Tate Dam Soha, Om Tate Dam Soha, Om Tate Dam Soha. And now you know why Om Tate Dam Soha is written 4 times across your screen. This concludes the love-oriented mantra meditation. And now we shall begin the wisdom-oriented mantra contemplation. Now, when we say wisdom, we don't mean the cleverness to create a longer-lasting light bulb. There's nothing wrong with that. We mean the wisdom of letting go. For there are many things in our life that are out of our control, but humans have the ability to take whatever befalls us and make them worse. We do that by shoving some things, striving to shove some things away, striving to reach for other things that are not yet here, striving to hold on to things that are already here. So what the meditation helps us to do, what the contemplation of wisdom helps us to do, is to let go, not to shove away, but to make peace with the present moment, regardless of how glorious it may be or how grotesque. So, in preparation, let's touch the tip of our right thumb to our let's touch the tip of our left thumb, to our left ring finger. Slide that down to the lower set of creases. Now, I guess it would be great to tell you what Om Tate Dam Soha means. Om is an invocation. Soha means make it so. And Tate in this context is a reference to the archetype of enlightened, compassionate action. Not the compassion that sits there and, sends you a hug, but that actually gives you a hand up. Tom in this context refers to the perfection of wisdom. So in other words, this could be seen as a supplication to master both love and letting go, to the point of practicing it spontaneously and habitually and easily and effectively. So we've been pronouncing verbally Tate for a few minutes now. So since we've been intoning it and whispering it audibly, it should be little difficulty to recite it silently and mentally. So let's have a bit of the old context. And since most Americans have a passing familiarity with the Bible, I'll start off with a biblical reference. When most people approach the New Testament, they assume devotion is the most important thing. And then when they come to passages like 1 Corinthians 13 or the first epistle of John, they are shocked to learn that what's more important than a vertical devotion to a real or imagined entity in the sky is the horizontal love of one human to another, ideally to all others, even the annoying ones. In 1 Corinthians 13, it even says that love is more important than anything else, which would include devotion. And there is a passage which reads, I put away childish things. This bears some exploration. All mammals are wired. I should say all mammalian children are wired to cling to their parents at the first perceived threat. That's why when you say hello to a child that isn't yours, it often hides behind their father's or mother's legs. Quite adorable, isn't it? That is our wiring. It is integral to survival. The predecessors who did not have that instinct did not live long enough to pass on that trait. We are the descendants of those who had that trait. And it's useful. However, once puberty hits, there's a huge shift in our central nervous system. And we no longer cling to mother and father. We cling to a mate and become mothers and fathers ourselves. That is the way of evolution. However, there is a hiccup. When adults are exposed to sufficient degrees of stress, they can slip into their juvenile circuitry and seek a parental figure. If they cannot find a parental figure of flesh, blood, and bone, such as a parent, a relative, or a political authority figure, then they will seek a real or imagined parental figure in the sky. So a strong argument could be made that devotion makes us into children stuck in our brainstem of fear and aggression, whereas love elevates us out of our brainstem into our midbrain of empathy and cooperation. So even though the Buddha taught that he was not a god and should not be worshipped, even though he poo-pooed ritual, once he died, people just started piling on the rituals because they knew better. And so over the years, to combat this, wise sages reasoned thusly. Fine. If you want to imagine male and female, if you want to treat gods, Buddhas, as if they were gods and goddesses comprised of light, living in a paradise, then let's take that tendency, that human tendency, and find a way to use it to rescue us from our own shoving and reaching and grasping tendencies. And so we play with the idea of an enlightened archetype. In Sanskrit that could be Deva or Devi, and in Tibetan that could be Yidam. You don't have to worry about these vocabulary words. I like the term enlightened archetype. So the enlightened archetype that we use as Tantrikas, or that I teach, is Red Tara, or if you prefer Sanskrit like I do, Tare. So just as we consider our minds and speech and bodies and circumstances, we consider her mind of light, or her speech of light, or her body of light, or her or paradise of light. We don't believe in it, we don't disbelieve in it, we just use it as a simile. So here, how lots like Tare's clear yet void. How could our circumstances be as non-graspable as Tare's circumstances? Now it says clear, and that's a typo. It should read seen. Let me fix that real quick. And I'll do my best to update this for the downloads page. How lots like Tare's seen yet void. So what do we mean by void? After all, that's the emphasis of the second yoga of Naropa. Glad you asked. Voidness is seen as a metaphor for non-graspability. So let me give you a sentence that explains it. During our in-breath, we could notice or experience our circumstance, and it could seem permanent and separate and tangible. However, when we relax into our exhalation, that exact same circumstance could feel less permanent and less separate and less solid. In fact, it could feel as non-graspable as a vast, empty void, like the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful, cloudless day. So, void is a one-syllable metaphor for non-graspability. Non-graspability. Yeah, we've condensed 6 syllables down to just one. That's efficient. So, this is the essence of what the Buddha taught about voidness or emptiness or shunyata. It's the same thing. Non-graspability. And so, even though we can see our circumstances, as we relax into the whispered recitation of the mantra, on some level it could feel even just a little bit less graspable. And this is the key, not to hide from the present moment grotesqueries, but to let go of them and thus make peace with them. For that is the purpose of Buddha's teachings. Buddha's primary focus was not manifesting. Any idiot can be happy when everything's going his way. The Buddha's primary focus was in making peace with the present moment. Even if the present moment is a post-traumatic, stressful, disordered recollection of a horrible event. All right. How lots like Tare's seen yet void. Let's play with this right now on our right little finger for 1 breath. Actually, we're going to do it for 4 breaths. We're going to start on our right little finger. 4 mantras per finger. Relax as best you can. Most Buddhists are fundamentalists. They take a literalist view of the teachings and have great confusion. The extreme minority leave patriarchy, embrace matriarchy, and choose to be liberal. I teach from the second point of view. So, how do you know if I'm not just a raving madman? There's only one way to know. Play with these teachings 5 minutes every morning, 5 minutes every evening for 7 consecutive days. Then engage your judgment and notice your results. That's the only test of the teachings. Perhaps that is why the British used to say the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. Let us advance our left thumb upon our left ring finger up to the second set of creases. Same basic idea, we're just changing a few words, and once again this has some typos. I apologize. Okay, how forms, and forms is a fancy way of saying body, how forms like tares felt yet void. So if tare had a body, if tare was a real entity and her body was comprised of light, it would be non-graspable, like the reflection of the moon in a basin of water. So let's play with this right now. The reason we're playing with these words is to help us to let go of our bodies. And we do that by asking the question during the in-breath and relaxing as best we can into the recitation, the whispered recitation of the mantra. Let's do this right now on our right ring finger. Okay, right middle finger. Right index finger. Over the decades, I've played with many mantras associated with many different archetypes of enlightenment. I found this one to be the most effective for myself and those who I live with. So this is the one I share the most frequently. Let's advance our left thumb up our left ring finger to the third set of creases and return our right thumb to its little finger. How speech like tares, heard yet void. Ugh, so many typos. H-E-A-R-D. There we go. How speech like tares, heard yet void. I remember meditating upon this one time whilst getting a tongue lashing from an angry roommate. These rhetorical questions we are playing with in Sanskrit could be considered Mahayoga or Vajrayana, and in Tibetan could be called Tokal or leap over. Once again, I teach to you the demystified egalitarian version of the teachings. Let us now advance the tip of our left thumb up our left ring finger to its tip. How minds like tares, whoops, oh, this time it's correct. How minds like tares, clear yet void. When we say clear here, what we mean is lucid, not murky. We are Our minds are perceptive. We can perceive sensations. We can perceive flavors. We can perceive scents, unless it's allergy season or we're sick. We can perceive sounds. We can perceive sights. We can perceive the workings of our coarser functions of our mind. We can perceive emotion. We can perceive intention. We can perceive thoughts. We can perceive memories. We can perceive fantasies. So clarity, or clear, is simply a one-syllable synonym for perceptive. All right, how minds like Tade's, clear yet void. So, getting back to the idea of external religions. External religions are of a god or a goddess or both. They will live in a paradise comprised of light. They will have beautiful bodies comprised of light. They will have powerful Maha mantras, or multiple syllable mantras, comprised of light. And their minds will be represented by single syllable mantras, also known as seed mantras or bija mantras, also comprised of light. So when we say how minds like Tade's, clear yet void, that's a concise way of saying how could our minds be as perceptive yet as non-graspable as Tade's syllable of light. Now that's a lot of words, so we shrink it down to this. How minds like Tade's, clear yet void. So let's do this for 4 breaths on our right hand. So I explained the difference between devotion and love from the perspective of the Bible, but I also explained it in terms of neuroscience. And I will now reference the late Carl Sagan, who said, who can blame a stressed, I'm paraphrase of course, who can blame a stressed out adult for seeking a real or imagined heavenly parent to protect them and forgive them. So there's both the secular and the scientific and the religious explanations of why love trumps devotion. Now, we have just performed 8 contemplations. If our mind was a dog, right now it would be panting. So we're going to give it a rest, not with more contemplation, but now with meditation. So let us touch the tip of our left thumb to the base or the lower set of creases of our left middle finger. And this is super easy. How relax into the awareness of this. The word this is deliciously vague, and it's the only label we ever need to use for what we experience in the present moment, whether it's pleasurable or painful, whether it is external or internal, whether it is glorious or grotesque, whether it refers to a sensation or a flavor or a scent or a sight or a sound or an emotion or an intention or a thought or a memory or a fantasy. Yes, fantasies and memories are not antithetical to mindfulness, despite the ravings of some self-help teachers. Grr-arg. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do this for a while. How relax into the awareness of this. Remember, relaxation is super important. This is our last section of tonight's live stream, so really make the most of it. Begin with our right hand, right little finger. I'll probably go faster than you because I'm breathing faster than you because I'm talking. We advance to our left middle set of left middle fingers, middle set of creases. This simple practice, there was a great Tibetan saint more than 100 years ago, whose name was Dza Potrul Rinpoche. Forgive my pronunciation. And as a young man, he wrote a fundamentalist treatise called Words of My Perfect Teacher. As a very old man, at the very end of his life, he wrote a very liberal text called Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones. And I've included a commentary on the downloads page. I call it Tare's Treasure, or Tantra's Treasure. And so at the end of his life, he just taught that the most effective thing was not ritual or asceticism or preliminary practices, but what we're doing right now, what we're doing tonight is, according to him, the most efficient way to practice. Let's continue. This is where I conclude tonight's live stream. When questions occur to you, reach out to me and ask me your question, either through a direct message on Instagram, or a direct message in the question in the comments, or during a question during tomorrow night's live stream. And I'll do my best to answer it either in a blog or in a live stream. I'm going to take a moment to click a button on the screen. My friends, I thank you for your time and your kind attention. If you have found value in these live streams or podcasts or blogs or class materials, numerous and free to download, and please consider supporting this channel using a link in the description area below. If you cannot do that at this time, then please support the channel for free by clicking subscribe and clicking the bell notification icon and clicking the thumbs up icon and typing in a comment. These things really help with the algorithm. until next we speak, may you and yours be healthy and happy.